I was worried about how am I going to create a 2-foot green character who's a main character in the movie and have it be believable. How in the world was I going to pull that off? And went to Jim Henson, and who was actually kind of next door to us in England, and he introduced me to Frank Oz, and the three of us sort of sat around, scratched our heads, and said, well, do you think you could do this and make a Muppet look so real that it wouldn't look like a Muppet, that it looked like a real character? And that was one of those things that if we failed, we would have failed in a very horrific and embarrassing way. But we managed at that point to take basically a puppet and make the puppet be a real character. But it could only move like 3 feet. And I had to sort of go through all kinds of machinations to get a midget and put him in a duplicate suit and shoot him far back just to get one shot of him walking away in the forest. But generally, if I had wanted to have him move around or do any kind of scene that had any movement to it, I had to put him in a backpack. I had to do all kinds of crazy things. To get him to have a sword fight, forget it. That just was completely out of the mix. But after the technology advanced and we got digital technology down to the point where I said, I could go back and do that prequel if I really wanted to. And this was a few years ago. And I said, am I going to go off now? I'm going to go back to directing. My kids are old enough. I'm sort of changing my life from being a father and running companies and producing films to going back to being a director. Should I go off and do all these other movies that I've sort of had sitting on the shelf for so long? Or should I finish Star Wars? Because now, with the technology, I think I might be able to go to Coruscant without having to build a $20 million miniature set and do all the things that I wanted to do. So we started, like say with Yoda on Phantom Menace, we started to say, okay, we're going to create digital characters. We're not going to use puppets anymore. We're not going to use rubber heads. We're going to actually be able to have an actor that is more facile and able to act in a more natural way. So we were able to accomplish digital characters and having them act and be integrated into the film very well. But we weren't able to really accomplish the key issue, which was to replicate Yoda. We got a long shot of him sort of walking around, but we ended up having to jump back to the puppet because we couldn't get it done in time. So everybody was working frantically through this movie and in between the movies to get Yoda up to a level where he would look like the other Yoda. It's one thing to create a digital character from scratch and just because you don't know what you're comparing it to and say, yeah, that looks like a real living thing that's standing there. But to take a puppet that we already know and everybody loves and every little nuance about that thing and then replicate that digitally was a huge, huge challenge. But we didn't want to make him perfect. We didn't want to have him be as articulate as these other digital characters we'd created. We wanted him to actually duplicate what the puppet did. So we were trying to dumb it down slightly to be more like the puppet. The important part is that he could walk. It's like you've got this character that can't walk, and he's supposed to have this incredible sword fight. What are you going to do? So we got him to walk, and obviously be extremely physical and stuff. And that was the huge challenge. But if we couldn't pull that off, this movie would have tanked. I mean, it's just, it had gone for about 2 hours and 5 minutes, and then that would have been the end of the movie.